But K-State head coach Chris Klieman has been a hot name in college football coaching searches for a while now, and his name may be coming up again with the Michigan job just opening right before I recorded this. But he hasn't listened to many, though we do now see through a report from the Kansas City Star and Kellis Robinett that Chris Klieman actually has been interested in one job since he became a hot name in these coaching searches. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. Here on this channel, we talk college football, college basketball, conference realignment, all from a Big 12 angle. Please consider subscribing if you have not. Live shows Wednesdays and Sundays. They are a blast. Make sure you get there for those. Lots of college football fans interacting, and it is a very, very good time. Like the video. Leave a comment. Love me, hate me, agree, disagree. How surprised are you by this? Let me know in the comment section. All of that is a great way to support the channel. And you can support the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4. So we have this today. This caught my attention from a good friend of mine, Kellis Robinett from the Kansas City Star and Wichita Eagle. We know that Chris Klieman's name comes up all the time for job openings. We already saw it with the Washington opening. I do believe he was contacted there and shot down some interest from Washington at the outset of their coaching search. Now Michigan is open. We shall see. And honestly, by the time this video actually gets out there, Michigan may have already made their choice. So if you are seeing this and that has happened, my apologies, because it could just be Sharon Moore very quickly. But here's the story from the Star. It says it's getting hard to keep track of all the times K-State football coach Chris Klieman has been mentioned as a desirable candidate for other prominent jobs across the sport. Every time a traditional power from the Big Ten or SEC parts ways with its head coach and begins searching for a replacement, Klieman's name is sure to follow. It happened when the Nebraska job came open last season. Yeah, I had a joke on Twitter about this. I will just emphasize again here. It seems like any time a job, particularly like a Big Ten job, is opening, but a major job across college football, it's, hey, here are the candidates. National College Football Reporter will say, here are the candidates. You've got K-State's Chris Klieman, Kansas's Lance Leipold, hot up-and-coming name, random NFL name, Matt Campbell from Iowa State, and James Franklin from Penn State because his agent gets him involved with every single job that is out there. That's basically your template list, and we have seen that yet again here. Bruce Feldman, before the Michigan job was even open, had essentially that list laid out there for Michigan candidates. Kellis says, same story with Michigan State, Texas A&M, and Washington this cycle, all being interested in Klieman. There are even some who thought Klieman was an option to replace Nick Saban at Alabama. Greg McElroy, Alabama alum, media member now, he was one of those that publicly advocated for Klieman to get a shot. If Jim Harbaugh, this obviously written before it happened, if Jim Harbaugh leaves for the NFL, Klieman will probably be mentioned at Michigan too. Despite all that, he remains with the Wildcats and has no plans to leave. Klieman has been so loyal to K-State since he was hired 5 seasons ago that athletic director Gene Taylor says Klieman has only listened to one outside suitor. Taylor declined to name which school pushed hard enough to grab Klieman's attention, but that doesn't really matter. Only one outside suitor. Now, that's of note to me because I think the common thought, and I think generally it is pretty true from K-State fans, has been like, Klieman's not really interested in leaving. He mentioned on the Catbacker tour, basically just like a statewide tour last year, that he wanted to retire at K-State, and his plan was to retire at K-State. This was coming off of the Big 12 championship. But look, coaches can say that. But I think the reality here is it's not a well-guarded secret that Chris Klieman doesn't like doing a lot of the, like, hey, out in front, a lot of attention on me sort of head coach things that some coaches thrive on. He wants to just sit back and be able to coach ball and not deal with as much of that stuff. And when Gene Taylor is his athletic director, he doesn't have to. And K-State is the type of place where you don't have to. He's a good personality, good culture fit. And if you just coach ball and win games, no one is going to say anything about that. There's not a ton of glad handing that needs to be done. So because of that, because K-State is paying him pretty well now, and the move seems to be with a lot of these coaches in Big 12 country to be very, very particular and picky, there hasn't been a ton of worry and stress about him leaving for one of these jobs. But that's why it's interesting to me to now find out that one of them did grab his attention enough to at least listen. I'm going to add this Gene Taylor quote here before I tell you who I believe it was that Klieman listened to. It says, bottom line, Klieman has gleefully shot down every rumor connecting him to other jobs as he's led the Wildcats to 39 victories, 4 bowl games, and 1 conference championship. Obviously, his name has been mentioned a lot of times, Gene Taylor said, but it's very rare that he has come to me and said, hey, I have an interest in talking to them. That kind of loyalty can be hard to find in college football. But again, it's very rare. He doesn't say never. He says it's very rare that has happened. Now, I do believe that the job here is Nebraska, that Klieman did at least listen to for a little bit. And a part of that is if you go back and read, Mitch Sherman did a great piece in The Athletic along with Max Olson, where they kind of pieced together the timeline of the Nebraska hire. And there was a period where it sounded like negotiations with Matt Rule broke down and they had to go to some other candidates. And I would believe it would be in that part of the search where Klieman would have been contacted. So here's that from The Athletic. First of all, they mentioned Jeff Monken from Army, Kansas State coach Chris Klieman as well were long believed to be on Albert's list. That was very early on. Kleiman's name comes up twice in the story. As far as the Rule talks breaking down, another Big 12 coach came up there where that story said Rule was impressed by his talks with Alberts and Carter, but he still had a few reasons to be reluctant. He'd never coached in the Midwest. He didn't know anyone in Lincoln. Was he really the right fit for the job? Could he get talented players for Nebraska? Was the school willing to make a long-term commitment to him? Most of all, he wondered whether a deal that was acceptable for all sides was too complicated. Talks with Leipold, this is Lance Leipold now, talks with Leipold intensified when the Rule deal appeared to be off. So there was a period where the Rule deal appeared to be off, but it goes through Leipold's connections there. He obviously had some to Nebraska. But Kansas AD Travis Goff had offered Leipold a contract extension in early October. When the lines of communication remained open, Leipold was willing to wait on the Huskers. No longer, though, Kansas upped the offer, doubling his salary to $5 million. Leipold agreed to stay. So there was a period there where it sounded like Nebraska was talking to other candidates. I do believe it was Nebraska that Klieman would have actually listened to there. And so it would make sense, stand to reason that that happened in that period. But look, I'm ultimately still, I gravitate more toward a lot of what the common K-State thought has been, that Klieman is not ultimately very likely to leave. I do think the one job, and this is nothing that hasn't been said before, I do think the one job that would be out there would be Iowa. And if a job like Nebraska were enticing enough to listen to, Iowa can be, I think in a lot of ways, like a mini Nebraska, maybe not quite the upside just because of what we've seen historically, but in the college football landscape in 2024, I'm not sure that the upside is discernibly different between the two. And at Iowa, you would be able to be a lot more chill behind the scenes. Kirk Ferentz is not a big rah-rah, glad-handing kind of guy. I think that atmosphere would lend itself a little bit more toward Klieman, and he obviously has the Iowa connection growing up there. They would also be able to certainly pay more money with that Power 2 cash that they are getting. So that one, based on this information, would still be of concern to me. I don't ultimately know that he would take it, but I would bet that that would be another job that Klieman would listen to. I really don't think there's a ton to worry about. Kirk Ferentz, I mean, we'll see if he's going to retire, even if he does. There are going to be some other names out there. Ryan Grubb is a very hot one, who was the Washington offensive coordinator this past year. Iowa has obviously been very much leaning into defense. They're going to want someone who's going to make the offense better. And Klieman has had good offenses with Colin Klein, clearly, but now Colin Klein is gone. He's a defensive-minded head coach. I would think Iowa may well want to go on the offensive side of things for their next head coach. But certainly something to keep on your radar screen. My ears perked up a little bit. Eyes, I suppose. I was reading the story. My eyes perked up a little bit at this story from Kellis Robinett. And K-State, Kansas, Iowa State fans all know the drill by now. You're going to have to deal with this every time jobs come open. Your coach's name will come up for said job. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you worried? Are you not? Even if you're not a K-State fan, what are you thinking about this? Would Klieman ever jump? Let me know in the comments. Like the video. I'd appreciate that. You can support the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4. And make sure you're subscribed and you click that bell so you know when it is that we're going live on Wednesdays and Sundays. And please join in for the live shows. They are a blast. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.